But he was not going to call this man back if he was not getting his back blown out.
Yeah,
okay. Welcome to the BoyFriends podcast, where we help you find your circle
and your man.
I'm Jarrod D King, and I am here with my friends. What can I say? This is like the inner circle. This is like, I am so excited to have you guys on. We call ourselves the Adventure Crew. I think, so let me just do a quick introduction of everyone. We are missing one. He was supposed to join us, but he couldn't join us today, Tariq. So shout out to Tariq. But I'm here with my good friend Kevin. I'm here with Juan, and we are also here with Alex. This is Juan's boyfriend, who is the newest member of the crew, but he has already made his presence very well known. So why don't you guys give us a quick introduction? Let us know who you are, what you do, and I don't know, what you guys have been up to recently and what's been going on. Why don't you start us off, Juan?
So I've been living in Philly for about 4 years now. I'm actually in the process of moving out to a new city with my boyfriend. So we have been just pretty much back and forth for the past couple of months between Europe and the US, just trying to settle things down.
Gotcha. And we're going to get a little bit more into that this episode because of our topic. You probably can see it below the screen right now, or in the podcast show notes. But yeah, I think you guys will have a lot of expertise in this area. Alex, where are you from? And how has your whole experience been, kind of back and forth between the US and with Juan and everything?
Yeah, so I was born in Russia, raised in Germany, and lived in Barcelona for the past 4 years now. So currently, as Juan just said, we are in the process of getting arranged to move. I'm going to be moving to the US in about 5 months, more or less. Next year, February, March, more or less. And we literally just met in a bar this year and couldn't forget about each other, I guess. And that's how we ended up here 7 months later. Really eager for what is going to come.
It really is kind of like a fantasy love story that you guys kind of have going on here.
It is.
So, yeah.
We always say it's almost disgusting. I understand everyone being annoyed with us.
It's fine. It's very cute. But we'll get some more details into that, of course. But I'm gonna move over to
Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes.
KZetti.
KZetti.
Hey there.
Yes. So I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. I've been living in Philadelphia for 2 years now. A few months ago, I started hanging out with Jarrod, and we've been on a crazy Snapchat every weekend hanging out streak of just nonstop adventures.
Yeah, exactly.
We're doing different stuff every weekend, and it's so much fun. And we got a lot more planned. So
we do. We have a Vegas trip planned,
2
which
weeks.
is really exciting. And
Yes.
we just went camping last weekend.
Yes.
Which y'all know me.
It was
I did
camping.
my best. And I really
He put on a real good face.
I really commend myself for not just being a complete diva out there.
Yes.
Even though
I saw your post.
You saw my picture, of course.
Camping, yay? Really?
It was very interesting. Let me say that. But yeah, no, I think we had fun.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. So looking forward to our trip in the future. And then of course, we all went on a wine trip a couple weeks ago. That was fun. It'll be sad to see you go off to Jersey, but I mean you'll be just across the bridge, at least for the moment.
I always tell Alex that even though we're leaving, I think that one of the things that I feel very satisfied about the experience of living in Philadelphia is that I'm going to be leaving with a lot of doors open. And we never know what's the future is going to bring, but we know that if we ever come back, for whatever reason, we know that we'll have a lot of opportunities and people that will be will be able to rely on in case that
Sure.
that were to happen.
Absolutely.
So I think that's,
Or we might all just come to Jersey. I mean,
We
My
could
couch
just
is
I'm
follow
not going to
you.
rule anything out here.
All right, so I think we can just kind of like jump into our topic here. We're going to talk about long distance relationships. And I guess the question is, are long distance relationships possible? And are they good? Who kind of wants to start us off with that? I mean, I know we've got a little long distance thing going on over here. Are they possible? I mean, I guess they're possible. I mean, we have proof of that, right? But what would be your has your view of long distance relationships shifted at all from before meeting each other?
I think for my part, for sure, because the only reason I ended up being in Barcelona was a long distance relationship that I had. So this is actually my second time doing something very, very similar in that sense. What I got to experience, though, is that both of those relationships were very, very different in the way that they were handled. And overall, the outcome of that long distance relationship has been very different as well. I feel like the first time I have been suffering a lot with the insecurity being so far away from my boyfriend, and I never actually wanted to be that far away from my boyfriend either. It was just everything new and everything exciting and everything that I had never experienced before. So I felt like I really wanted to embrace that. At the same time, I was not really ready before, and handling the long distance relationship for about a year was really, really hard.
Yeah.
Because obviously there are so many aspects that go into it. It is communication, it is trusting each other, it is thinking about the other one and how you can make them feel appreciated as a partner, even though they're so far away and you're not able to physically be there and give them the attention that they require. So I feel like there are so many things that go into it that make you scared initially. But in the end, it very much depends on the person that you are with and the way that they make you feel. And I think I can confidently say that when it's the right one, it's not as hard as it might seem at first.
Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I have my opinions about long distance relationships just because I've had some experience. I haven't had one that was like prolonged as long as you guys have. So I know that it's tough. It was even tough doing it like part-time essentially, because I was traveling for work and I'd be working for 10 days. I'd come back for 4 days, and it had its pros and cons because, those 4 days that we were together, it was like, we were so excited to see each other. We're just going to like soak each other up. And then like it's 10 days of just break again. And so I think that it was easier for me to do it that way because we were having, life experiences, and it's tough when you're sorry. I think it's tough when you're like really far away, and it's like, okay, one of my big questions is like, what happened at that point when you guys kind of stopped having so much to talk about and that kind of deal?
Did you guys ever have anything was there ever a lull in like conversation for you? Because I don't know, I feel like the best relationships, there's always kind of something to talk about. I mean, I think that's kind of like why we click as friends. It's like,
sure,
we never really like run out of anything to say.
No,
Really.
no, definitely not.
I think that you always have to understand that relationships are not always going to be high. There's also highs and lows.
Sure.
But I think that the most important thing for us, at least, is to always maintain the communication going. We always have to let the other person know that things are going to be okay, because me and him go through moments where we either doubt or we are not secure, or we don't feel confident, or whatever the reason is. And I think that what he said is so true. The most important thing is for you to make sure that person feels confident and secure at all times. I don't think we've had a point where we didn't talk I mean, even sometimes me and him are on the phone and we just either don't have anything to say, but we don't want to hang up the phone. And we found other dynamics on the phone.
So cute.
But we found other dynamics within the relationship on the phone. Like now it sounds silly, but we watch movies or we just try to do, because it's impossible for us to keep a conversation going. Me and him speak about 2 to 3 hours a day.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so
Every
much
day.
every day. And so it's impossible for you to keep that conversation going, but we have found a medium and an external source that allow us to still connect without us having to be exhausted on the phone, having to speak at all times.
Yeah. You know, that's what I mean, like, and I really like commend you guys for actually like putting that work in, because it's like, I feel like a lot of times when you meet somebody who is maybe not locally available, you need to be able to, I don't know, there needs to be work that's put in on both sides. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like,
it's that way for normal relationships too.
it is, but I feel like it's a lot. There's a lot more effort that has to go into,
For sure,
the long distance thing. Because it's because, like you said, you have to be okay with talking on the phone for maybe 2-3 hours a day, watching a movie together, or and I don't know how you sync up your Netflix accounts to watch it at the same time.
Gotten pretty good at that.
Yeah. It's
is
like,
is there like a countdown? You're like 3.
Yep.
It literally
is.
No,
like that.
it was on the 1.
It literally is
No,
like that.
It was after the 1.
Literally, yeah. Well, look, I think a lot of us got good at that after, like, during the pandemic. We were like trying to watch with our friends and stuff. But I mean, you got to put that work in, and I feel like a lot of people just don't want to.
I also think that at the beginning it's a lot more complicated because you're getting to know the person. You don't know what the person wants. You don't know if you're being too much or too little. But after a certain period of time, I think that you do get up to a happy medium where you know that person wants to talk to you, and it just kind of happens naturally without you having to really think about it so much. Like, I don't think that we don't have to
Did you guys feel
think about it too much.
Did you feel more secure like during the pandemic time when it's like, okay, we're not really doing much of anything, so yeah, like we can be on the phone, and I know he's not going out because there's no place to go, no place that's open.
Well, I don't think that they met.
I think
they
we
met
were
after
right.
stuff kind of opened
Right.
up.
We were like
right
in the
after,
midst
I
of
think.
things reopening. In fact, when I went to Barcelona,
When we met.
Barcelona was reopening the day after. So it was, we were still we still met up during the lockdown.
During lockdown.
Towards the end of the lockdown.
Gotcha.
So here's just one thing that kind of came to mind. It's just like, I feel like a lot of times there will be somebody either that we're interested on Instagram and we start chit-chatting with them, or we match with somebody on Tinder and we're like, oh, if only you were, and this is like, if only you were in my state, and you're all the way in the West Coast, and it's, I mean, you guys are like, Spain and Philadelphia, like, Barcelona, Philadelphia. So it's like, y'all made it work. So I feel like,
because like it's always like that. You go like some other place and you meet somebody, you're like, oh my God, they're so amazing, but like, this is never gonna work. You're just too far.
Like, what is that? Like, have y'all had that happen before?
Well, I think it was
like,
the
no.
moment with us that we were thinking to ourselves right after it happened. Because I think neither of us were necessarily thinking, oh my God, there's this guy that I've just met now, and I know that he's like a continent away in general. I don't think either of us were thinking about the possibility that we might be together at that point. But at the same time, we literally left each other thinking exactly that. Like, what was that? That was very strange. And it felt a lot more, even in the moment, we were like already realizing that this was not like a normal hookup or one night stand.
But it was a hookup.
Well, essentially it was.
Unofficially.
Juan doesn't want to look at me right now.
We had a recent debate on whether it actually was or not.
Wait, can we have that conversation? Wait, there was a debate on whether it was a one-night stand or not.
Well, I wasn't initially going for a one-night stand.
Right,
I had reached a point, it was like a bit of a drama situation going on in that bar because I knew people and like they were just making a bit of drama and I was scared of scaring him away. And I was just really exhausted.
I was going to leave the bar at that point.
You were. And I really like just tried to calm it down. And then I, at the same time, didn't really want to offer a one-night stand at that point because it seemed very desperate to me. So I just said that we could go to my place and we could like cuddle because I would just really enjoy cuddling right now. As stupid as it sounds, I swear. And
you didn't want to cuddle though, did you?
Well, Juan knew
I know
what he
he
was.
I knew what it was.
He didn't come all that way to Barcelona for a cuddle.
That's what I said. I said I'm in Barcelona. I am 3,000 miles away. Like, I'm not going to cuddle with you, but okay, let's go home.
So we'll go home. We'll see what happens. Like,
Yeah.
Such a modern day love story.
It is, right?
Yeah.
Golly. So wait, so okay, that brings up the question, like, what do you think about like, because I feel like gay men have a different set of standards as far as it comes to dating and maybe having sex on the first date. Is that typically, do you typically have an issue with that? Or like, and then that was kind of like a different scenario, but if you're kind of meeting somebody for the first time, is sex on the first date like an appropriate thing to do? What do you guys think?
Yes.
Yes. I would agree.
I mean, it is. And, you know, we have to admit these truths to ourselves. And it doesn't, you know, I don't think that makes us, you know, not
dateable.
Not dateable
Yeah.
or like we're,
Whores, sluts.
thank you. Yes.
You can say it. This, I mean,
Yes.
we say anything on this podcast. You can just speak your
Yeah,
mind.
no, I mean, it's like, it doesn't make us any less of people. It just, that's just what we do. That's the culture of it. And, you know, it's sadly that thing where it's almost like, okay, this is kind of like your test essentially if I want to continue, because I don't really want to waste time. I feel like we're trying to be as efficient as possible.
I honestly agree.
So we're kind of superior, really.
I agree with Kevin. I mean, I honestly think that if I would have not had this sexual experience with him in Barcelona, I would have said, okay, this is someone that might be very nice or might be, you know, nice to talk to, but I don't think I would have really maybe encouraged it as much if I would have not known that I was, you know, that I had that sexual chemistry with you. Like, I feel like I would have just probably passed and move on.
He's so polite. He's so polite tonight. He's not giving y'all the real Juan right now.
Well, it's true. But it's
An
true.
appropriate
I'm
sexual
gonna,
chemistry.
I mean, shit, you know. But
we don't need politically correct Juan. We need
well, you know what I mean.
the one and only.
I mean, you know what I mean. I'm not gonna say much beyond that, but
He was not gonna hook up with. He was not gonna call this man back if he was not getting his back blown out.
Yeah,
okay.
But I
if
feel
you
like-
do-
Blushing,
But-
boyfriend is right
But I
here.
think it's very true though. I feel like everything goes through the eyes first. Like, you cannot say that you see someone from far away and yeah, you might have a small connection with them and you might want to talk, but the reality of life is everything goes through the eyes first. Like, if you tell me that everything goes through the heart first, you're lying to yourself. You know, like,
Yeah.
you need to have, you know,
Some sort of attraction.
lust, and you know that eagerness to want to be with that person, and then the feelings come
Okay.
later.
I mean, I feel like in many circumstances, perhaps, but I feel like there are some people out there. Like, I mean, we've had people on the show who were demisexual, who did like not really focus on the physical at first, and it was more about like the personality for them.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think if we're talking just in like just in standard culture terms, I don't know. I mean, do you? Because okay, so here's my thing. Like, I try to be a lady when I'm dating, and sometimes it just doesn't work, and I just don't know should I just be giving it up?
Well,
But
you
at
just-
the same time, what's that message that you're sending?
You just have to be yourself. I feel like you have to be open and tell the other person, hey, like, this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for, and once you open that door for them to see who you really are and what you really want, that person might make an effort to get to know you better because
Yeah.
they've seen who you truly are. You know, so
Yeah.
So it's just about vulnerability.
Do
for
you,
your,
but do you also think that maybe sometimes, like, if that is happening and you are having sex on the first day, like it that other person kind of puts you in this realm that's like, okay, not really dateable. Like, this is my one night stand guy, or this is my guy that I want on the reg. But
yeah.
I was thinking about that as well, because I kind of feel like in my younger, well, I'm still currently young, but when I was younger, when I just started dating guys, I felt like that was really something that was brought onto me by my girlfriends as well. Like, listen, we don't do that really. So I felt like, okay, maybe I'm not gonna do that either. It's not necessarily right. I'm gonna look dirty if I would want that. Then my first one night stand started to happen at like 19, 20. And I was like, this is not too bad. Like, no shame in this.
Yeah.
And then I started to understand that really it doesn't make a lot of difference if you're having sex on the first date or you don't necessarily, because in the end, what makes you want each other the most is the connection that you have. And if anything, sex would only embrace that. So I don't necessarily feel like sex on the first date should be something looked down upon, because if it is the right person, or like the person that you really could see yourself with, that will be the first moment for you to fully realize that. Because when you get to know someone, you don't really know them yet. You don't really have an idea of what they're thinking, of what is going on. But then you have sex and it works wonderful, and like everything just works out the way you want to. You're completely pleased.
do you guys feel like you get to know somebody by having sex with them?
Absolutely.
Right? Like,
100%.
it's just the way that they do it.
Jared's
Like,
face.
could just tell you a lot about that person. So
Yes, I do.
Write that down. Write that down.
In fact, I think that's what happened to us. I mean, we only had
A night.
a night, and then I had to go because I was going back to Sweden. He had his ski trip somewhere else, and I didn't talk to him for a couple of days. And then I wrote to him what I felt that night without me saying that I was feeling something for him. I was just telling him how I felt. And he took like a couple of minutes to reply, and then I deleted the message. I said, I don't want him to see me vulnerable like that. So I deleted the message, and I said, okay, this is it for me. I'm going back to the US. I'm never going to see him again. And
Well, guess who got a notification on the phone first?
He got a notification on his phone saying that I had deleted it. And then he kept trying to ask me, like, what is it? What is it? And then
Fucking
once
technology.
I said it, and that's how we both. and I
God
said,
bless
"Listen,
technology.
we
I would
might
have never.
not
It's a blessing and a
go
curse all at
anywhere
the
with
same
this,
time.
But this is how I feel. I'll leave it at that. And then a month later, 2 months later, you were here. In fact, when I told him that, remember, like you told me, you make me want to get on a plane and go to Sweden. Yeah. And my girlfriend said to me, "Go to Barcelona, go back and see him." And I said,
I'm sorry.
No way.
I'm playing with y'all. I'm sorry. I'm making little looks at Kevin. Continue, please.
"But no, go ahead."
I'm kidding. Are you kidding?
No.
Okay. I was
No.
like, damn, is he about to hit?
No, but
Okay.
that's,
That was it. Okay. Sorry, I made that awkward.
That's what we mentioned before. It's just really cheesy and sort of.
So I think we should get back to long distance relationships.
Well, okay. So before we do, because I do have another like burning question that just kind of was brought up, just about like dating in general, because it's just like sometimes you'll meet somebody online, or I'll say specifically like on like a hookup app like Grindr or something, and then the conversation goes very platonic. Maybe not platonic, it's just not sexual, but it's more like we could probably go the dating route. We know that we're both interested, but we could probably go the dating route. And then, you know, maybe like, I know this has happened to me, and I know we've talked about this. Like, you know, there was a guy that I was talking to. We kind of connected on a little bit of, on some level. We exchanged numbers, texted a little bit, and I said, hey, you know, why don't we like meet up for coffee or something? Didn't hear from him for like another week and a half. Like he just kind of like ghosted. And so it's just very strange. Go ahead. We'll continue. But it's just very strange how sometimes people will be okay with you coming up, a stranger coming to their house to have sex with them, but they balk at the idea of going to sit across from a table and talking with you. Yeah. Does that not strike anyone as
weird? Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like in today's day and age, I feel like everybody is really like, they want to control a lot of things in their life. The people, the relationships that they have, they don't want to be vulnerable. So, they put up these walls and they'll say like, they want to only meet at your house. They want to only meet at nighttime. They want to make sure that they're there at only a specific time where, I mean, you're not doing anything else. It's like, I mean, I've had that happen before where it's like, they'll be like, oh yeah, like we're going to hang out in the day. But then all of a sudden it's like 9 o'clock and they're like, all right, I'm going to order the Uber in like 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I have work tomorrow.
Right. So weird. Like, what do y'all think? Like,
I think it very much depends how you walk into that situation. Mm-hmm. Like, what your goal per se is. I don't know if goal is the right word to use, because neither of us had a goal necessarily. Mm-hmm. I guess it was more where you're at in that very moment, and if you're very clear for yourself that you're not really looking for anyone, and you're just out for the fun, and that's just all you want because you're busy with your work life or social life with friends.
Like my thing, I just feel like, then say that. Like when the opportunity, like if I say, let's go.
I think that's tough though. I think it's like tough for somebody like, for somebody who's focusing on their life and they're like, okay, I'm focusing on my life. I'm not really looking for anything serious. But then you meet somebody and you have a connection and then you're still in your life. So it's like, okay, now I'm weighing like, is this the one I'm going to invest time into? Mm-hmm. And then at any given moment, any red flag, they're just going to be like, oh, nope, back to what I was doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's very, I don't know. For me, I'm just like.
You also have to be mindful of where you're getting these people. Like if you go on Grindr, or if you go even sometimes on, I don't know, Tinder, or I don't know, whatever other apps you got going
Insert dating apps.
It's very hard for you to find someone who, wants that type of relationship, because you go on Grindr to get laid.
Yeah.
So for you to expect that one person that you messaged and say, hey, you want to meet up for dinner, when maybe they know that you're going to meet up for dinner just, to go get laid, it's very hard for you to change that direction. That's why it's always important to like meet people in sports or meet people through other types of activities,
going
out or going on tennis leagues or something.
Yeah. So you're talking about like changing the direction. Like I understand like the culture of the app, or like how you meet somebody is kind of shapes like the direction of like where you're going, right?
Not always.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm going. That's kind of where I'm going. It's because it's like, if nobody ever if nobody ever cuts into the conversation, we're here talking about like, what do you like to do? Where are you from? Blah, blah, blah. And nobody ever cuts into the conversation like, so when do you want to come over?
I mean, my last serious boyfriend of like 3.5 years was met on Grindr, and it was supposed to be just this hookup, but I went over to his house and we just were talking like basically all night. And so we kind of knew something was there, and it's so strange because we didn't hook up. I should say we didn't have sex that night, but that created from that point, like we were like spending just like every day with each other. So I mean, when you have that feeling, and it can happen. It is super rare with those apps.
I feel like sometimes a lot of people just like, whenever it gets like, it's just a cup of coffee. It's not necessarily like a whole, let me take you out and fall in love with you. It's just a cup of coffee, and people would just get like, oh, this is getting too real.
Right.
And it's like, it's not even fake yet. Like, can we just figure out what it is?
I feel it's also the distance. Like if you look at just texting and wanting these things, like you didn't have the initial vibe, you know? That's why I a lot of times think that like apps don't work as good for me, because I can't really hold up small talk over texting. Like I'm just too bad for that. I can't. And
Same.
then as soon, and I would catch myself, someone texts me and it might be a nice guy and really maybe my type or anything, but they come texting me like, would you want to go for a coffee? And I'm like, do I really bother going for a coffee right now? Like, do I really want that as of now? And then I just say no,
Okay, so wait,
much
why
rather
are you
than
talking
yes.
to him in the first place if you don't want to go out for coffee?
Well, I'm not sure if I would be initiating the conversation to go for a coffee, but then again, I don't know how to have a conversation on Grindr.
I feel like it's gotten worse. I feel like everybody's now very, very sexually motivated, right?
Deprived.
I wouldn't say deprived. However, no, but like I can generally tell, like it used to be before, like I would say 6 years ago when I was like on Grindr or whatnot, there would be some people where we would start a conversation and I could just tell like by what they were giving me that, oh, you're actually like an interesting person. So then I can, like, you can give me stuff and I can feed off of it. But if you're just like, I'm like, hey, what's up? What are you doing? And you're like, oh, I'm in bed. Oh, okay, cool. Me too.
It also has to do a lot with the description that you have on your profile. You know, like if you have more detailed, I don't know, more detailed description of what you're looking for, who you are, what you do, what you got a dog, so you display your dog. Maybe you will find people that will understand that maybe you're there for sex, but maybe you're also for the opportunity to meet someone. If you have a blank space with your, you know, picture with your dick out or your, you know.
By the way, that is not what's on my profile.
I mean, I'm not. I don't know, Jarrod. Just so you know,
You said it like I said it like.
But you know what I mean. I mean, it all has to do also with the description of your profile. Says a lot about what you're looking for.
Yeah.
In those apps.
And I would actually rotate back to what Kevin just said, because I realized there were some times where I really had like a get-go with someone, but that was so rare. Like I would say maybe like 3 times that it just started out as a conversation and it just went whoosh, and the conversation just went going.
Yep.
So that made me very interested. And all 3 times that this happened, well, don't count me it was 3 or not, but I believe it was around that. All of those times we actually did meet up in the end, because it was really, really interesting to go to meet up with that person. Everything that had happened before that made it interesting enough. Whereas when you feel there's already some sort of initial awkwardness, you don't want to have that like from the very start.
Right. It shouldn't be a chore.
Exactly. How is it going to feel like then going for coffee? Like, are you going to run out of topics, or is it going to be awkward?
Yeah.
Are you going to sit there in silence?
Yeah.
Do I have to stand up and go?
I will say for me, I only invite people out to coffee if I feel like there is a good back and forth. You know, I don't necessarily think we have to have like the most amazing chat to actually go. I don't, that's like, my bar is not that high, and I'm not saying that that's what you were saying.
Yeah.
But yeah, if I feel like, you know, we've shown that we have enough to talk about, and I feel like we could have fun and have a good conversation outside of this and kind of see where it goes. I mean, I haven't cut off the sex option either, especially if I met you on Grindr, like, you know. Yeah. But yeah, like,
do you think
it's just funny that they get scared by the
Yeah, I mean, to some people that probably does sound intimidating. Is like you're going for coffee and it's like there's nothing external to comment on. It's just you and that person, and you are just like back and forth. And you know, after you do your introductory, like, you know, what do you do, all that kind of stuff, it's like, what are your interests? And then like, and unless they're super aligned and you can like really start talking about those interests, it's like, oh, okay, cool. And then that's where I think that awkwardness can come in. And so, I mean, but you're saying like you've already spoken to them. Like, and so you've established that you're like kind of going back and forth, right?
Yeah. There was enough to exchange numbers and chat some more.
Yeah.
For me, the whole phone thing is super important. I think that I can't text for shit. Like if you and I have the slightest interest, like for instance, with me and him, the second I knew that he wanted to talk to me, I said, "What's your phone number? I'll give you a call. And if you cannot hold a conversation with me on the phone, me and you cannot go on further."
Did you tell him that?
It was literally
Jeez.
like, imagine I texted him, "Hey, is it weird? Like,
You a
So y'all
boss,
think
you
I'm
a boss ass bitch.
we'll get to that." But so it was actually funny because after we had that conversation about how it was so amazing this night that we had, how good it was, that it felt like more than just a random one night stand, that we felt really intimate and really close to each other, and we really felt like the chemistry. We again had a couple of days that we did not speak to each other.
Well, I was there.
Exactly. And then randomly after about a week, I sent him a text like, "Hey, is it weird that I miss you?" And instantly he went like, "Can I call you?" And I was like, "Well,
Yeah.
sure." Like, I basically asked for it, so let's talk then. But it was really awkward. Like I was not used to have someone like, "Can I call you?" instantly.
Right.
And I was literally with friends in that moment, so I was like, okay, no, I'm just gonna pick up the call and just see where this goes. And we couldn't get off the phone.
You spoke for like 2-3 hours that day.
Your friends must have hated you that time.
Terribly.
Also, like going back to like that grinder, like for me, it's very. If I'm going on a date with you, or if I like you, like I want you to pay attention. So for instance, like for a while I did Grinder, and I remember that I will put like my interest there, and one of them was that I used to like go on hikes, and this was like during the fall. And I remember I met this guy on Grinder, but it wasn't really that much sexual, but I was interested in him. I mean, I was obviously interested sexually in him, but it wasn't, the conversation was a little bit more than that. And when it came down for me and him to meet, I said, "Okay, well, what do you want to do?" And he said, "Well, why don't we go on a hike?" And he had read on my profile that I like to go on hikes, and that led the tension of getting to know that person for the first time a lot easier, because I knew that it's not like he wanted to be with me for sure, but at least I knew that he was paying attention, and that made me loosen up and be able to open up a lot more.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I on my profile, it's literally just a row of like emojis of like everything that I'm interested in. So like, I know that if somebody like just even remotely comments on one of those emojis, I was like, you know, we have something to talk about. So I'm already like kind of laying the groundwork of what we can talk about.
See, yeah, I need to, like, I'm telling our audience, like, what you put in your profile is very important, as you can see, because if you show that you're paying attention, like, your chances go up way higher to actually, you know, talk or date or whatever. But to continue my story, because we actually finished this conversation at our friend's house, the guy that I was texted me back like a week and a half later on some, "Oh, sorry for the delay. I'm free, blah, 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 blah." And I didn't respond, and I was very adamant in not responding. And Kevin was like, "Oh, you should just try it." And I'm just like, no. So, I mean, because it's like at that point.
Because that was my whole point even before, is like, if they're in their life and they're doing stuff, and maybe they're just in a super busy moment of their life, and now they actually have a chance, or maybe they even thought about it and they were like, you know what, actually I did have a connection with that person. I mean, I don't think you should hold that against them. But you're more like, nope.
I don't know. I don't agree with that. I think that, you know, you could be as busy as you want, but sending a text back doesn't take you more than 5 seconds.
Well, not all of us have love stories like yours, okay?
But it's not. But it has nothing to do with that. I just think that if you like the guy, you think he's hot, and even if you just want to remotely have sex with him, you're gonna somehow reply and not wait a week and a half and say, "Hey, do you want to meet up?" Like, that I think shows that depending on what you're looking for, obviously, if you just want to hook up with, that's
Well,
great.
if I just wanted to hook up,
I would have.
up.
I mean, yeah,
You know
for that
what
I would
I'm
have
saying?
said, okay, what's up,
But-
you know, but keep it.
But I would have respected more if he was just like, hey, sorry for the delay, but or not even sorry for just like I'm really only interested in sex right now, or I'm not interested in a relationship or whatever. Something else than like, sorry for the delay, here's my schedule, and just pretend like you didn't ghost me for a whole week and a half.
And my whole thing is just like, that's like so, I don't know. It's like you think that people have like just this concept of exactly what they know they want, and sometimes like they're getting conflicting information, like, oh, actually I like this person, even though I'm swearing right now I'm only sex. Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, you gotta, and I guess, I don't know. I mean, I guess that's me. I mean, I think maybe you definitely, I don't know, you miss out on some opportunities, unfortunately, you know?
It could always also shift, you know, you could be looking for sex, because when I met him, I was only looking for sex. I was not looking for anything remotely besides and I think like I've been very open with you about that. I just wanted to sleep around, and it could always shift, you know, like it's not determined.
right.
And I think, you know, right?
In the end, what's really important, and it comes down like to any topic, whether it was what we were just talking about or the long distance relationship that we already cut on, in the end, it is the chemistry that makes it or doesn't.
Yeah.
So like, it doesn't matter where you are particularly in your life or what is going on. If you feel chemistry with someone, that alone is going to do something to you and that person. If there is no chemistry, you will feel very early on that at some point either one of you guys is going to feel a certain way in that circumstance, feeling like there's not much coming from the other side, I'm doing all the job, or from the other side there's a lot of input but you're kind of like struggling to keep up. And maybe you don't even feel like that bad for that person or anything, and you would still be slightly interested, but the chemistry just is not enough for you to show it.
I mean, I think the little nugget of wisdom we can have out of this piece of the conversation is that there's very little that you can do to turn off somebody who was truly interested.
Definitely.
You know, so all of the overthinking and the anxiety that we go through about how we talk to this person, or should I text this person now or should I stay back, and like, if you're just really honest with your feelings, and if the other person is on the same wavelength, there's like, really, they would just accept you as it is, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't know. That's kind of what I'm pulling from that. So I'm gonna try to not be so, because I know sometimes I can be very anxious about certain things. I've been a little bit better recently, I think, but I know that I can be very anxious about, like, you know, should I text this guy right now, or have I been texting too much, or like, you know, trying to play that game. And
I know, and it's so wrong. It's just so wrong, because that person at the end of the day is going to have to like accept you for how you communicate. So,
right,
you know, like,
might as well rip that Band-Aid off.
right.
And I always tell you also that the worst thing that could happen in a relationship, or when you open up to someone, is that person's gonna say no, and you are gonna be okay with that. You know, like, you'd rather open up to someone that you think it may be worth it, and even if you lose in the end, I don't think it's even a loss. I think it's more of a lesson. But at least you live with the satisfaction that you know that you gave yourself up to that person, and if it didn't come back, well, that's great. But it's better that than you always wondering what could have happened. And you couldn't get it because you were not brave enough to put it out there.
Exactly.
Step up to get what you get.
Yeah.
No, wait, I messed up my own line. Hold on. Stand back and get what you get. Step up to get what you want. That was my line.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that even works in, well, what were you gonna say?
Well, yeah, I was gonna say, like, to his point exactly, is like you got to open yourself up to be vulnerable so that that other person can either accept it or reject it. And, you know, if you're realizing that early on, you're not wasting your time or trying to mold yourself into that person or try to be like not too much or like go by the rules. Like I have to wait, you know, the 3 days to text. I know that's like super old, but you know, those types of things.
Yeah.
So I think that, you know, just kind of putting yourself out there, and I feel like that definitely needs to happen, especially if you're interested in somebody who is maybe a little bit outside of your local area.
Definitely.
You need to be able to like put yourself out there and be like, yeah, I like you. And
Or maybe somebody out of your league.
yes, which we will be getting into in the next episode. But yeah, I mean, I think, you know, if you're really interested in somebody who is who has a little bit of a distance, there's a little bit of a distance there, you're gonna have to be willing to put yourself out there a little bit, even more so than normal. Because you want to keep that connection alive, and you're going to have to want to do some things that are out of the box, like watching a movie together or something. I remember there was a guy that I had gone out with. He lived in Atlanta, and we actually met in North Carolina. It was a couple of years ago. We met in North Carolina. This was during the pandemic. And I was just like, oh, well, you know, we really like each other. But we met there. We had a nice weekend. But one of the difficulties of the long distance thing, from my understanding on his side, was how much money it would cost to maintain a long distance relationship.
Yeah.
Now, I mean, I would have found a way. That's just me, and not everybody is really, you know, and so it's just like, it's really difficult. It's, you know, like, have you guys ever had like, how has that piece of it, how has the financial piece of it been, if you don't mind kind of jumping into that for a quick second, or has that been a concern for you?
It has been definitely something to think about, because obviously you can't travel every single month and just take that time off, because like me, for my part, I have a certain amount of holidays that I'm allowed to take. Anything further I could maybe get approved, but it would be unpaid, so obviously that would cut the rest of my month. And considering that, it's obvious that I would not be able to make a trip to the US every month or even every second. So that's something that you obviously like have to take into account. But as you also said, I think there is always a way. And we hear crazy stories of people that met in India that didn't even have their phone number because phones were not existent. And then they bike all across the continent to Scandinavia to see that person again, and they find each other. Like, wow. That is things that happen. And I feel circumstances are circumstances. It is always whatever you envision yourself in the future that is going to make the change. And we knew when we met each other, or like, not when we met each other, but when we started talking more and more, and it like just came out that we were in the same mindset, that we were going the same directions in life, that we really wanted the same things, and we were just more and more amazed on how the other person is actually like that as well.
So let me ask you this: you're more of a love conquers all type of guy, I take it.
I guess
love conquers all, as opposed to we have to be like, you have to practical about this. Yeah. And I feel like Juan is more the practical, like, we have to be like, let me make sure this is gonna work, you know?
I mean, listen, when you talk about, you know, what I wanted a year ago and like where my priorities were like completely different. Like I always, and I think me and you were having this conversation today, I've always been extremely practical. I'm very routine, like I don't like to step out of my comfort zone in the sense of like, this is my schedule, this is the way it is, and I don't want nothing to change that or disrupt that. And ever since I met Alex, I felt like my priorities had changed a lot. And I always knew that this is just what I needed to do. And in fact, I'm going to be spending the whole month of December there. And I'm not going to be spending Christmas or New Year's with my mother, which is a big deal. And I told my mom, like, I know this is a big deal for you, but this is what I need to do. Period. Like, I don't question it.
See, that's what happens when a man loves you, okay?
Yeah. and I also think that, financially, it does put a burden on you. I knew when he came and when he left the first time, I knew that I didn't want to be away from him. And I went there like a month later, like almost like a month and a half later, right? Like we went back to Germany, like in July? When did I go to Germany? No,
so we met in February. Then I came to the US for the first time mid-April, and then you came back to visit me, and we did a Germany and Barcelona trip to meet my family and friends. Mid-May and like beginning of June, more or less. So you came pretty quickly after that, because I also feel like it was to have this time with each other that was so important in the very beginning. Like we had a lot of suspense in between, like meeting first and then me actually coming here, because it was a lot of arrangement. Like first of all, am I really going to do this? And I guess it took us like a month until we actually felt like, okay, like we're definitely wanting to try it, and we had to set clear at first like what we were looking for. We came from different backgrounds, different relationships, so we really had to make sure that what we want is the same and that we're definitely on the same page moving forward, because anything else wouldn't make sense. Like, I'm not gonna fly to the US to risk like 2 weeks with someone that I practically don't really know or did have not experienced in person as much as virtually.
Well, I'm sure if you're like, oh, if it goes south, like I'm still taking my holiday in the US. Like,
well, we all, I think, the first time he came, my friends were like, what the fuck, are you gonna bring him for 2 weeks? And I remember when I went to pick him up, he was flying into Newark, and I called one of my best friends from college, and I was completely calm the whole time. And then once he called me, he says, hey, I just landed. I call my friend. I'm like, dude, I'm freaking out. I'm gonna fucking dip. Like, I don't want to be here. Like, and I was just like in that suspense of not knowing how he barely even looked like, because he looked different in camera. But going back to what you were saying,
and it had been a while since you'd seen him. So it's
been
like
quite a while.
2 months, 2.5 months. But going back to what you were saying in regards to like the financial, yes, there is a burden, but I think that good things that come to your life take work and they take sacrifice. And I'm a firm believer.
What you pay for.
Exactly. So
I'm cutting that part out. Okay.
So you know what I mean? I mean, it's all about you getting that, you're working hard and you believe in the relationship that it's gonna work out.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. He cannot help himself.
Give this guy some wine or something.
Are you more of like a practical kind of guy? I feel like you might be.
Not really.
No? Okay.
No. So, actually, one of my most serious boyfriends, we had met, and I moved to Hawaii within like 3 weeks of meeting him. We met each other, and again, it was the same thing. We were just spending almost every day with each other. It was like between semesters at college, and he's like, I'm about to go to school in Hawaii, and I was like, all right, well, I mean, like I can do that too. So but my mother didn't even think I was like serious about it, but she's like, and not until I bought the plane ticket, she's like, you're really gonna go? And I said, yeah, why not? It's like, to me at that time in my life, I was like, why not take a chance, and I really liked him, and we had a good relationship for whatever it was, 7 months or something like that. But it was a great experience going to Hawaii, and I'm always going to make the most out of my situation. So even if it didn't work out, maybe I would have liked Hawaii, and maybe I would have stayed in Hawaii. Who's to say? So, those are the types of things that it doesn't matter to me, like taking chances, like coming to a place that I've never been for 2 weeks to see somebody that I arguably don't know that well. But that's what you got to do. If you're going to go for love, you got to go for it. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're running out of time a little bit, but I do want to kind of speak to the viewers, anybody who may be having kind of a situation going on that may be long distance. What can we say to them to kind of like, what would be like one pointer that you would give them that would be helpful to kind of either get their mindset right around it, or at least to help them further the relationship?
So what is extremely important is that you're honest in the first place, because if you're dishonest but actually close with each other, like you might feel it, you might sense it in some way. Being like on long distance, only seeing each other over camera really takes a lot away from you, and you miss a lot of signals sometimes. So it's really, really important that you're really honest about the way that you feel and about what you need. At the same time, boundaries is really, really important. You just want to make sure that you know exactly what you can or can't do. Apart from that, just show the other one what you feel, because you're taken of those possibilities of kissing each other or touching each other or having sex. You have to find other ways to make the other one understand and know that they're loved, that they're thought of, and that you're still in the same boat.
Yeah. Juan, what about you? Any quick pointers before we head out?
I would just say, just stay open at all times. Be forgiven, because we all make mistakes. And encourage the other person to be just as open as they can be with you, because like you said, if there's no honesty, if there's not 100% comprehension of boundaries, then it's not gonna work out. So I think communication and encouragement, probably the biggest things for me.
When you're doing something long distance and you have that mode of communication with the other person where you just want to make sure that you're always respecting what the other person might be needing at that moment. So there might be moments where you're not communicating as much as you would like to, but you'll generally know if something ends up developing into a pattern that, okay, they're starting to pull away, and just to make sure that you're using your intuition in those types of situations, so that you don't waste your time investing into somebody versus you know something to be true, you have that feeling, and it's an indescribable type of feeling and connection, so that's what you need to work for.
I would say long distance relationships, or successful long distance relationships, are a good balance of love conquers all versus being very practical. Like, you have to have a little bit of that adventurous spirit, a little bit of that just like, let's just roll the dice and see what happens. But at the same time, you have to make sure that you can do everything that comes along with that, and if you're not in the position to do that, then maybe it's just not the time. Or if the other person is not able to just kind of like bankroll the whole thing, then maybe that won't work, so there has to be a little bit of a balance of both, and you have to be willing to put in the work and willing to be creative in how you connect and how you communicate. So that would be my little bit of advice. So, but I want to thank you guys for joining me for this episode. I want to thank the viewers for watching us. Please give us a like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode. And remember, if you have no one else, you got us.